Hello people, it's Power here to review the Ultraman Rube DX Rube Gyro Mitsurugi Saki Model. Yeah, I'm finally covering this toy after like several, or at least 2 years since I received it. Honestly, it was just because I wanted, as I'm going to go over later, I wanted specific medals. Or I wanted to at least have a close to complete collection of medals before I cover this. But that's not looking to be likely, so I'm just going to do it now because this thing's becoming irrelevant because, as we already know already, triggers the next series. Yeah, so this was a premium Bandai item that is essentially the repaint of the Rube Gyro, and as it states, tied to the character of Mitsurugi Saki, or Suru-chan, and during the second half of Rube. And as you can see with the box design, it's actually pretty sleek in my opinion. As we can see right here, we got the Saki Rube Gyro at the front with these nice dark orange lines. I don't know why I was going to say purple. Eisen Tech on the both sides. Then here we have the blank Rube Crystal and Haru Sight, or Lugo Sight apparently. And here are the other Kaijus: Grugio Bone, Grugio King, Grugio Regina, and Ouroboros. And nothing more in the back. And I don't have the Rube Gyro box because I had to quickly pull this out of the closet. It's essentially the same size, surprisingly. But yeah, that's essentially it for the package. Let's take a look at the actual product. So here's the Saki Rube Gyro and the blank Rube Crystal that's included with it. We're going to take a look at the crystal first, because I think that's what I did in my review all the way back in 2018. Gosh, I've been covering this toy line for 3 years. It's literally like Drive. So as the name implies, this is a blank Rube Crystal. It's there's nothing spectacular about it. It's just a white sticker, and for your sake, this is a Kaiju crystal, because the back is black, and it actually surprisingly still has the horns, which are purple. So obviously, because it's a Kaiju crystal, I flipped them all the way up. And this one is just B000, because this thing literally doesn't have pins because it's a blank crystal. And, you know, for our guinea pig, here's a comparison with our good friend Powered. So, okay, but I should probably actually, compare this with an actual Kaiju crystal. But, I need to use Powered somehow. But I guess to just compare, like, you can see, like, Powered has, like, pins on the side, and even the pin for the Rube Slugger. This thing doesn't at all. Like, not even for the Rube Slugger. So, that's actually kind of funny. So the only thing that you can really use this thing on is the Rube Korin, because the Rube Korin reads it off of this edge part pressing the button down, not if this button presses down on anything. So, nothing spectacular. And just to even, talk about it, I'll actually use this later. But here's the Saki Rube Gyro itself. And I really like the color scheme for it overall. It kind of always appealed to me from the beginning, just because it's actually, it's pretty unique to me personally. Because the base of it is gray, and like the base of it's gray, and then you have like colors of teal and orange, And then you have like metallic silver on the side, because this is technically where it's painted. And I just think it's appealing overall, and actually makes itself stand out from the Rube Gyro. I don't think it helped, like, yeah, it still looks very toyetic, but like, I think, especially the front, actually having these decals, just makes it stand out a lot more. Obviously, the inside is still pretty much the same, it's just that it's covered in a lot of dust. I got mine like that, I just never bothered cleaning it off for these 2 years. So technically it's going to be 3 years, but I don't know, I'm filming this in early 2021, so it doesn't count as 3, but there. I don't know, mine's just covered in like dust kind of thing, and I'm pretty sure you can remove these off. You can't remove these off. I don't suggest you doing that, or else they're actually going to become loose. And one of the positive things I have to state is that this one actually took good care of, and the paint isn't chipping, so that's good. So let's compare this with the Rube Gyro, and I forgot to mention the red gem up here. So as you can tell from the Rube Gyro, the Rube Gyro just has a basic color scheme of blue, red, silver, and this one I feel like the blue here just doesn't really help, because it makes it really feel toyetic, which is not really a valid complaint from a toy reviewer, but like, for like, to immerse yourself, like, to immerse it within the show, it's like, yeah, that's obviously a toy. So I think the colors of the Saki one just help out a lot more. And plus, I appreciate that the colors, obviously because this one isn't used by 2 people, it's used by 2 people, but not simultaneously, so it doesn't have to, follow the color scheme of this, where obviously here you have red and blue, and then this being red for some reason. I always found it to be weird. Like here, it's just like, you just got teal on both sides and silver. The backs are pretty much the same. And then that's pretty common. Obviously, the most different thing is just the plate, just the plates. Whoops. Just because of the fact that instead of silver, it's orange here, and then they added paint around here. Like, they essentially just added a lot more color to the front. So, yeah. Now, see, mine has paint chipping because it fell on my foot and bruised it for like a week. Actually, before we get to this thing, I should show off I'm going to show off the blink crystal right now in the normal Rube Gyro, because I do indeed have it on, just to prove. Here's powered. So that's proof I have it on. So when I insert it, nothing happens, even when I spin it. Nothing happens. And obviously when I even do flip it up like this, because this is the only pin, this is a huge hint, this is the only pin that's still like available on this thing. So when I flip that up, I should probably close it. Obviously that's not going to do anything. So this thing does its job at being a blank crystal within this thing, because it won't press anything down. So yeah. Now we're going to take a look at the Saki Rube Gyro. Obviously, it requires 3 AAAs, just like the normal Rube Gyro. The speakers are up here. I don't feel like doing the pulling right now. I'll switch back here. Obviously, we got our LEDs and pin system at the front. And, yeah. So there, you can tell a different activation sound. The light is still blinding, so that's fun. And obviously with this thing, you can't do anything by itself. Unless you pull out the handle and hold it, and you pull out and hold. Not that rough though. That was bad. Don't let the gears scratch each other. But basically, you'll get that sound, and now you're in the phrase mode. So there are, I believe, about 23 lines of dialogue from Mitsurugi Saki herself. So let's go through that. I really don't, I'm going to complain about this right now because it's going to irritate me throughout this, but I really don't like the fact that the light shines when she talks. I really wish they just left it off. I don't want to be blinded by this light. It's already too bright enough. And also, basically, just to say, whenever the light goes off, that's when she's done with her line. And I apologize if you hear this thing going on in the background, because this is essentially what you're doing. I honestly would have liked it if there was a better convenient way of activating the phrase without having to pull it, but...
に分けてしまうことだ。オスカー・フィンガル・オフラハティ、ウィルス・ワイルド。笑わせるな。ジャイロがお前たちのような無力な人間を選ぶわけがない。古木友は言った。あらゆる聖あるものの目指すところは死である。ジークムント・フロイト。古木友は言った。いや、嘘だ。この星に友などいたことはない。かつてもこれからも。私は地球を破壊する。うわー1300年間この時を待っていた。レイエネルギーとこのクリスタルの力で今度こそこの星もろともお前を倒す。これが最後のクリスタル。兄さん、私の名前はクリージョ。私はハッピー。
And that is the last line, because that's Saki's dying lines, but it'll circle back.
古木友は言った。ほとんどの人間が偽物だと。無論あのウルトラマンたちも。
And that's essentially it. I think you either let this sit, or the method I'm going to show to revert it back into the mode without the phrases. So again, just simply pull it out. Again, I think you can also just let it sit and reset itself. But other than that, yeah, that's essentially it. Okay, so now moving on to crystal compatibility. Let's first use the blank crystal that's included with the gyro itself. First of all, I want to use this all flipped up because it doesn't press anything. So, you might be wondering, well, this is entirely pointless. Well, remember, I said that it only has one specific peg. Well, just insert it like a normal Kaiju crystal. So then you get this entire standby sound until you pull it once. And then and yeah, that's it. I was gonna say technically you should do it twice, I think, that I want to, but I guess once is actually good. I actually forgot about that. But yeah, you don't know what that is. That entire sequence was the creation of the Ryu Sight crystal. So that's pretty neat and such. However, we're actually not going to cover that crystal first because we're going to cover the 3 Grugios and Horribor. Oh my gosh, I forgot he does that. Horriboros and then Ryu Sight. Because these are the 5 main crystals that are compatible with this. So, starting off with Grugio Bone. So we get this new standby. And as you can tell, we get a new pole. And as you can tell here, the colors here are actually purple and yellow, which is interesting. So there you get the summoning of Grugio Bone, which is exactly carried over from the Root Gyro. However, there's one new addition, and that's when we pull it twice. Now here, we actually get the standby for the orb bring Neo. And then we just continue. So as you can hear from there, Grugio Bone actually has a finisher now, which is pretty cool. Well, it makes a lot of sense because this is essentially because obviously Grugio was tied to Saki, despite these two being only used in here, while this one was belonged to the regular one. Anyways, moving on. Just stop. Okay. Obviously, you're still allowed to chain the Grugio metals, crystals. Again, the same. I guess I'll say all the summoning slash. I'm just gonna say summoning sounds of the kaijus are carried straight out of the Root Gyro. And there is the finisher for Grugio King. As we have to wait for this thing to spin. I just decided this time around you guys get to see, or you guys could watch the star chart spin, whatever you call it. Just because it's kind of satisfying. Also just so that I can actually compare in real life in the camera the speed difference. Next up, Grugio Regina. The finisher. So that's it for the Grugio evolution. Now let's do the first kaiju Saki used this with. Ouroboros. Finisher. And obviously the light combinations are still the same, it's just the standby is different. Because I think, well, I guess we will see with the Ruse site. Yeah, it's Corp 1. I think this is the same thing as Kaiju's, I don't remember. finisher. I just quickly want to check with the root gyro because I actually forgot how exactly kaijus are supposed to work in this. Yeah, you can see it's red. So yeah, here the kaijus are now yellow, which makes sense. And so I guess I should say this now. So Grugio Bone, Grugio King, Grugio Regina, Horboros, and Rusite. These 5 are the only ones that actually get finisher announcements. However, if you couldn't tell already, if we use a random kaiju, so like Grubia, which is one I haven't showcased because I'm not able to review Gashpon Set 2. So, obviously that's the same exact sound. However, typically with the Rube Gyro, obviously, with all of these, when you do the second pull, it will just do the transformation again. However, with the Kaijus, they gave them attacks. They're generic attacks, but they're attacks. Which is such, like, it's the most minimalistic thing. And it's, yes, it's generic for sure, but they finally gave them attacks. So it's just, it's appreciated at best. Like, it's not groundbreaking, but they gave the kaijus attacks. So speaking of that, let's give an example of an Ultra. So, yeah, so ironically, I literally just pulled everything out of Rube Crystal Set 6, because here is Orb Trinity. I wanted one that wasn't as distinctively long, so if I were to just, you know, put them in Rosso formation. So as you can see, this is yellow and blue, and then you get this new entire standby. And this is red still, because I put in a Rosso formation. And obviously the poles are the same. Obviously, they still did not fix the transformations. But that's not the point, because we're able to do... Because what happens when we do a second pull with here, usually we will just get the transformation again, which for Trinity, I don't mind, because I think the truncated version of it is interesting. But however, when we do a second pull, we get a new finisher standby. Whoops. So as you can hear right there, he has a finisher now. The Trinity Shoot, I believe. So it's not the Trinity Korean, but they added finishers to the Ultras that weren't the elemental ones. So that's that's cool. And obviously, I think I forgot to mention this. You have this one is just straight up the voice of the Kaiju side of the Rube Gyro doing the voices and such, which is interesting. So I kind of wish with the original Rube Gyro, it was just, you know, the normal voice doing all the Kaiju stuff. Because, you know, I'll get to it later. So, that's how a normal Ultraman crystal functions. I'm not going to show a bunch of them because that's for the sound demo. To show off a special crystal, which I think will be the last one I'll show off, I just bought the New Generation Heroes. Surprisingly, they actually have the voice of the Gyro announcing that too, because normally that's actually both Katsumi and Isami doing that. Because, just to mention it, with the Orb Spatium Zaparion Crystal, it still has their phrases in here, which is funny. I wish there was like an Aizen Easter egg in here somewhere. But yeah, that's essentially it. It's like, yeah, I guess if you want me to, I can pull powered. That's still generic and such, and I forgot to pull out Busca, so I can't do an Ultra Kaiju. But yeah, essentially that's the gist of the Saki Rube Gyro, as I'm calling it, because that, you know, calling it the Mitsurugi Saki Model is just kind of a long name. And overall, this is weird, but this is a nice improvement over the Rube Gyro, and I don't really think that should have been the case, if I had to be honest. Overall, like, I really do like this one design-wise, and I do like its full-on focus on kaijus, but, like, I just have a lot of, like, nitpicks. It's because it's the Rube toy line. First of all, it's just, like, I just feel like, personally, like, overall, they shouldn't have, like, incorporated the kaiju thing within this thing, and just should have just let this thing do its thing, because, like, I know this is nitpicks on this thing, but I feel like it should have just been like the orb ring, where allow it to read the kaiju crystals, but don't, like, don't have a full-on separate mode for it, because it makes, because with this thing existing for the sake of, like, summoning kaijus, it makes it utterly pointless in this toy, because, and it makes it utterly pointless from both toys, because because all of these kaiju sounds are carried over from here, especially, I'm specifically talking about the announcements, because I think you should have just had the normal voice do it in this toy, and then keep all, like, the kaiju, you know, the kaiju announcer in this toy and such. Because I felt like they were trying to do a Jade Riser thing, which, with the Jade Riser, it made sense, because the Jade Riser was the only thing that was capable of doing both within the show. And with the Rube, it's like, yeah, they first established that with the Rube Gyro, but then when the Saki Rube Gyro came in, it's like, wait, what's the point of that thing if the normal one can do that too? So it's just like, I think they just wanted to sell another gyro. But other than that, I guess I'm getting my negatives out right away, but it's just like, it's kind of the same complaint as the Rube Gyro. This light's blinding when you're trying to, like, when you turn it on, and then when you have the phrases going on, it's just like, I kept looking at my viewfinder every time I did it because I didn't want to look at the light. I don't understand why they thought this was acceptable. Like, it's not. You can blind children. Um, and then it's just again like pulling it. It's just like sometimes it's just yeah. And then other than that, like all the complaints really out of this toy are the same from the Rube Gyro. However, the thing about this one is that, as I said before, they added an entire new function with this toy, which is all all your previously owned crystals have finishers, which is just like I know I initially said in my Rube Gyro, or I think in my crystal set reviews, I don't mind the fact that there's no finishers, but like at the same time, however, like I think like over time it kind of like got to me and be like, wow, this toy is really kind of like jarring with no finishers. And then so like excuse me. So then with this toy coming in and being like, oh yeah, we're gonna have finishers in them as a selling point, I don't really think that's like a good way of marketing it. Because I feel like they're kind of, that I don't want to say they're desperate, but I feel like that's just kind of like them not being confident enough of this selling without saying, "Oh look, we added the finishers." I think I talked about this before, but like I don't. Well, I personally don't think this is in the same line as like, "Oh yeah, sell a new complete item with stuff you already have," like the Rider Memorial sets. It's not on that standard because this thing, like, I'll get to my thoughts, so I am, but it's just like with this thing especially, it's just like, you know, it's just kind of like I think it's I don't personally think it's a weird selling point, but it's just like I feel like the selling point of this should be, oh, if you like the character, go get it. Not, hey, I added a completely new function or a completely new sound set for your crystals. Buy me. Because then it's gonna make people like pity buy this thing because they're like, oh great, this thing has finishers. I must buy it now, kind of thing. And it's just like I don't know. It just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, I guess. But other than that, like as I guess I should be getting to, I think this thing is a neat pickup for sure, just because, like, it's essentially the same thing as the Rube Gyro. I know I didn't show it, even though I technically should have, but I want equality if I was going to show it off. But you can do the crystal changes. Those are the same. It's just with the Kaiju voice announcer doing the voices. Uh, Putting the Kiwami crystal or the Makoto crystal would literally be the same thing because it will just activate the first pin that does nothing. But with your other Ultraman crystals, you have a heck of a lot of functionality out of that because they have finishers now. So it's like, go crazy with it. Like obviously for except for the generic ones, yeah, those are at a lost cause. But like all the generic crystals, those are at a lost cause. But like all of the ones that actually have their own pin, yeah, you can do more things with them and such. It's just that I think this toy is actually now harder to find. I don't know why. I picked it up for like $40 off of Mandarake, but now it's like shooting up to like $50, $60. So just try to get it for as cheap as you could. Other than that, you don't need it necessarily because especially with the crystal you get, you can really only use it within this thing and the Rube Korin. So yeah, that's essentially it for this review. So I guess look out for the demo and this all sound demo. This is PowerRider, and I'll leave you people. Bye.